Hey, what's up everybody, it's Solio here. Today I have a Pokemon discussion for you. As you might have saw from the title of the video, I really don't like Generation 5 of Pokemon. Why? Well, I guess it's because it was kind of a boring game when it came out originally as like Pokemon White. Then they added Pokemon Black, White 2, and I just kind of felt bored of it. By then I'd already played Generation 1, 2, skipped 3 for a little bit, played 4, then Generation 5 came out. And when I played Generation 5, I looked at it and thought, these are the most lazy Pokemon designs I've ever seen. Come on, I know I'm probably going to sound a little ridiculous here when I talk about the garbage bag, considering that already we had a punching bag from Generation 3. My two least favorite generations are 5 and 3 because they were lazy Pokemon, period. But for lazy Pokemon, Generation 5 takes the freaking cake. They had an ice cream Pokemon. Can you explain that? I don't really think you can, even though it was created by an American, which kind of kills the theme for Americans making Pokemon ever again. Generation 5 had three of the most lazy made starters. Again, for the third time in a row, we had a firefighting, and fucking Tempeg and Boar were stupid. Even though he was the one I picked because he was the most worthy out of them all. Oshawott, he's named after Auschwitz. Please do not take that as a weird thing to say. Snivy was pathetic. It's just a snake. And then, like I said, Oshawott was is a samurai Nazi. Like, these were lazy, 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 lazy Pokemon. Braviary, yeah, that was cool. The legendary Pokemon were okay. The legendary sword group was the lamest thing I've ever seen in my life. Then when it came down to Pokemon White and Black 2, they gave us Kyurem, the fusion Pokemon. In what's God's name or Arceus' name did you decide to say that mixing Pokemon together would make a good idea? It was cool in Dragon Ball Z. Digimon did it for a little bit and it was cool at that point. Fusion back then. That's the thing. If had you done it back then, maybe before 2005, it would have worked. Maybe because everyone else. Maybe I didn't like it because everyone else is doing it. But I've talked to other people. They said that there are like maybe 5 Pokemon from that generation that they actually like. Me, I'm the same way. I don't like very many Pokemon from that generation. I like Braviary, Zoroark. Like those guys were cool because they actually looked better. They looked good in comparison to other Pokemon from other generations. But everything else from that point on was just boring pieces of garbage. Literally, there was a garbage bag. Like I already said, there was a garbage bag. To what people liked about it was that it like if you did like the games, good for you. They're the only thing that I could say that were memorable about them was that it was the darkest Pokemon game we ever had. Literally, it was dark as crap. I remember N. I think if I'm remembering right, he was a Zoroark, and the hidden thing behind that is that that you that he wants the Pokemon to be not to be partners, but to be your friends. And if you didn't do that, he was willing to eliminate everything else and kind of get rid of all humanity and let Pokemon live. Because yes, he's a Pokemon. And in Black and White 2, you actually get his baby. Yeah, that's another discussion for another day. But either way, these games were, I felt, the most boring to play. They have some of the stupid, like Scrappy. Who wants oh, I'm part of the hood, give me a spray can, let me spray up the wall right here, and let me put my texture of Scrappy. Scrappy was a lame Pokemon. It wasn't strong. It was very, very lackluster in move pool. Its shiny sucks. Everything about that generation was boring to me. Oh, here's another thing. List off the generations. Generation 1, we had EV evolutions. Generation 2, we had EV evolutions, or evolutions. Generation 3, again, my second least favorite generation, we didn't have evolutions. Generation 4, Sinnoh, my third favorite generation, had evolutions. For it to be, yeah, it wasn't the best generations for evolutions, they were kind of lame ass. Generation 5, where was the evolution? It wasn't there. Generation 6, by far that's my second favorite generation, Generation 6, because it was the coolest thing to do, was to push for the 3D thing. It was the best thing ever. It was one of my favorite Pokemon games I think I've ever played. And we had an evolution. We got another evolution. And when I saw that we had gotten another evolution, I was happy because I was done playing Generation 5. I could not deal with Generation 5. The Dream World. Who thought of the Dream World? Who thought that would be a good idea to, when you're playing with your friends, that you can't see them unless you're in the same section as them? Like, they can run around quicker than you. They're faster than you, which is what I didn't understand, is why they made your friends faster than you were. If you joined another person's world, the entire world was black and white. Why? You were an NPC. Why? Why weren't you you? Why weren't you those lame-ass trainers? Sure, you beat Red in the Coliseum Championship. Guess what? They made it so you felt good about this game. The only thing that actually came from the game that was any good was that game, was that entire thing. The Elite Four sucked. I walked in there and beat them with easy level Pokemon. They weren't the best, like, the hardest league or Elite Four I've ever had to deal with was Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, and even then, I did not like that game very much. Generation 5 had the easiest league, but it definitely had the darker, more focused on story. They also pushed out too many Pokemon. Why I like Generation 6 is because it only came out with like 74 Pokemon. Sure, some of them weren't that good either, but it's still, quality over quantity is what people actually want from a Pokemon game. I don't want to see 200 more Pokemon when Generation 7 comes out. I want to see good, developed, creative Pokemon. I don't care how many there are, as long as they're thought well, good attributes, say like Fairy, Fire, even though that kind of sounds pathetic. Make it a good mix. Don't make it a stupid mix, Firefighting. Or Dragon Fire. We have too many of Dragon Fire. Or Dragon Electric. Because those, by the way, are Reshiram and Zekrom? Zekrom? Yeah, Zekrom. You see, I can't even remember the names of those stupid frickin' legendaries. The legendary swords were pathetic. Like, they were interesting for maybe 2 seconds. I never saw that. Okay, the only legendary I like from the games is because I have a thing for liking cute Pokemon. The only legendary I actually like from Generation 5 is Victini. Victini, the victory Pokemon. I had to beg my friend to give me Victini. Because Victini, you could only get him if you got the pre-order. Which, again, is another thing I didn't like about the game, is you could only get the very good Pokemon from a pre-order. Victini, my Victini wrecks house. He's super strong, he's super cool. And that's what I like about Pokemon games, is when you can create a Pokemon that people actually will remember. Can you remember the name of the garbage can? Or the garbage bag? No. Can you remember the name of the punching bag? No, I can't. Can you remember the name of the fire dragon Charizard? Can you remember the water tortoise Blastoise? Can you remember the grass dinosaur? Venusaur? I can, because those Pokemon were memorable. Nothing about Generation 5 is memorable except for story and N. I don't like the idea that the second game can literally take 2 places later. 2 years later. And you're First of all, in the first game, you could actually see an entire map section that should have been filled in. Second game, they filled it in, but they got rid of an entire section of the game. Why take out an entire part of the game that I actually thought was good? I remember going to that point, I said, why can't I cross the bridge? I remember going to the bridge in the first game. It looked interesting, it looked good. It kind of started throwing in a 3D idea from Black and White. They took it out in Black and White too. So guys, I don't really have a lot of time anymore, but one more thing I'd like to say about these games is that, yes, I do like every Pokemon game, but this one is just the least memorable. If I had to play through it again, I'd probably only play the first one, because Black and White 2 was a disgrace. It was boring. I couldn't get into it. I beat Black and White 2, and I got to the final boss, but then I couldn't go to the Elite Four. So guys, thank you for listening. So here I was out.